Hey everyone, it is Fox from Inferno Fox Gaming, joined by some very special guests to discuss the Clair Obscur Expedition 33, one of the nominees for Geoff Keighley's The Game Awards for 2025. The most, what is it, guys? The most amount of nominations for a single game?
12 nominations, I think.
12 nominations is the most any game has ever gotten.
Yeah, The Last of Us 2, I think, had 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So that's pretty incredible for an indie and for devs from a former major studio, Ubisoft. So us gents here, we want to go ahead and talk with you guys about spoilers and our general thoughts about this game, because 'tis the season to talk about great video games. But before we get into it, I got to introduce our crew here. First, we'll start off with Fake, aka FakePearBear. He is a known entity on Twitter X, and he has a lot of really great video game news and information. Fake, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, pleasure to be here. Good to meet you. Good to meet Dallah. I've known you two for maybe 2 years now, but this is the first time I've been on a video with any of you guys. So
awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And
absolutely.
we also have GameCube Galaxy. GameCube Galaxy, talking about a JRPG. That is a testament to just how good this game is and how lucky we are to have our buddy GCG to join us. GCG, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here, honestly. Like you said, I'm not the biggest JRPG person. I think I can count on one hand how many JRPGs I've actually completed. And so I think Expedition 33 is a testament to that. And I'm excited to share my thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely. And you can catch GameCube Galaxy at the YouTube channel of GameCube Galaxy. We're going to make sure to put links for everybody in the description below. And last and absolutely not least is Dallah Games, Dallah of Dallah Games, a fellow Chicagoite from not only Dallah Games but also the JRPG Pursuit podcast. So, what better pedigree to talk about JRPGs than Dallah? Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's great to meet you guys. Those who have, you two, I haven't actually met you guys at all, so awesome meeting you, and I'm excited to talk about Expedition 33 today. Honestly, it's going to be a fun time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude, it's it absolutely is one of those games that I don't want to throw around platitudes, but it's one of those games of a generation sort of experience. And we got some really good information regarding this particular game to talk to you guys about. Specifically, we want to kind of get into how we got into the game, and more so really shown off in the Xbox Showcase June 2024. And what were your guys' Fake? What were your guys' thoughts about this particular game when you saw it?
So I remember tuning into the Xbox Showcase, like you said, June 2024. I knew there was some stuff that was going to get announced. This was not one of them. I don't remember if it was the first thing they showed or if it was the last thing they showed. I do remember at some point shortly after the showcase, they gave what was called, I think, an Xbox Developer Showcase, where they just sat down and talked for a half an hour and actually broke down the mechanics of the game. They had Jennifer Svedberg, Guillaume Baroche, all these people were on it. But my initial, we all saw the trailer. If you guys watched the showcase, you saw the trailer. And I don't know about you guys as it pertains to RPGs and JRPGs, but I'm definitely more wary nowadays when something comes out, especially this being a brand new IP, and it's swinging like the art stick. We're in this industry now where a lot of games are artistic for the sake of being artistic. It's like they're reaching for these awards, being profound or provocative for the sake of just being that thing. So I was a little bit wow, these guys are really coming out bold, especially when we found out that there were 3 versions of the game on release. So hey, this is a brand new, basically an independent RPG, and there's a $120 version of this game that you can buy right out the gate. I'm who are these guys? What is this? The initial images we saw of the game was just like, it was very obviously an Unreal Engine game. Obviously, we'll get into the inspirations that the game has in terms of just like interface and combat mechanics later. But I didn't really know what to think. Like I said, I was very like, okay, let's wait and see like what this actually is. And it really wasn't until I'll give credit to Game Pass that kind of got the conversation started where people were like trying it out for the first time and saying like, okay, maybe there's something here, and that kind of got the wheels turning.
No, that's totally fair. I sort of had the same opinion as you, where it's this new offering, and okay, we got these 3 different versions, and then as I tongue-in-cheek alluded to the whole fact that these were former devs of Ubisoft, so the whole 3 different models is sort of the modus operandi of they're going to do what they do, so that I guess that's where they sort of come from with that. The art style itself is really provocative, and the idea that I'm thinking this was a huge team of individuals, and hearing that a small group of indie devs, it didn't look like that. So honestly, I think it kind of felt a little hinky there. GCG, what were your thoughts when you first saw this game?
So I remember when it was showcased, a lot of people were talking about it. At first, I didn't watch the showcase, so I was like, okay, well, what is this? So I looked at a trailer. I'm like, okay, that seems pretty intriguing. I was like, but at the same time, it's a turn-based RPG, probably not my thing. I'll move on. But it really wasn't until obviously it came out. Everybody's raving about it, talking about it. Then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go get a physical copy of this. Like, a buddy of mine, Retro Wolf, he kept telling me, he's like, dude, you gotta play this game. He's like, it's amazing. I'm like, yeah, but I don't even like turn-based RPGs. He's like, no, I'm telling you. He's like, it is the most active, reactive combat, like turn-based combat system. He's like, I know your style, because he's like, you love games where you have control in parrying and dodging, and because I love games like Ninja Gaiden or Devil May Cry, where it's very split-second reactionary. And he said, he's like, think of that, but it's turn-based, but in that style. I'm like, all right, you got me interested. Let me see. But it wasn't until the summertime I was able to snag a physical copy. And when I remember I was on vacation and I ordered it. When I came back, I fired the game up, and me and a few other of my friends, we started playing it because, again, our friend Retro Wolf kept telling us, you got to play this game, and so we all played this game simultaneously almost. And I got to say, like, it was one of those games that I was very surprised how much I got into it. I don't typically like games that are way too long, where it's just overly stuffed with artificial filler or anything like that. The game was paced perfectly. Like I said, for a turn-based RPG, I could count on one hand how many I've beaten. This one, I could not put down. And even at one point, I remember later on, I got to a certain boss in this game where I was like cursing the game out. I'm like, this game's broken. This is ridiculous. And everybody was like,
mention the boss. You can mention the boss now. It's a spoiler cast.
Yeah.
So I'm actually trying to remember what the name was. I'm trying to remember what the name was of the boss. But it was a boss where you had to go through the environment, and you have to go to 3 different locations to defeat these masks before you can actually face off against the boss.
Mask Keeper, Duelist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't have to do this crap. I'm just going to go fight the boss. And I legitimately spent 30 minutes fighting this boss, like holding my own, getting him down to like almost nothing. And I'm on the point, this is like ridiculous. Like, what an endurance round. So then I was like messaging, I was polling my friends. I'm like, this game's ridiculous. I was like, I hate this game now. And they started laughing, like, dude, did you go like through the environments to break the masks? I'm like, no, because I fought a mini boss over there and I died. I'm like, forget it. I'll fight the main boss. And they're like, no, trust us, go back, do that. It'll make things easier. But what was cool was it was that moment where I felt like I haven't had that much in gaming lately. That brought me back to that time where you would go to school and you sat at the lunch table and you talked to your friends about a game, right? Like this was that game that really rekindled that old school feel of talking with others about your experience going through the game. But yeah, I mean, no question, this game, I was hooked. The combat system is on another level. I'm sure we can dive more into that stuff. But yeah, this game, for a turn-based RPG, like if this were to get a Switch 2 announcement, I'm like, yeah, I'm double dipping to get it on Switch 2.
Yeah, so I got to follow up regarding the Mask Keeper thing. I was the exact same as you. I'm like, you know what, fudge it. I'm not going to do the mini boss. I didn't know that there was. I just followed the straight path.
Do that. I didn't know you could skip the mask until he just said it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
went
just go
through the
straight to
mask.
him.
Yeah.
No, I did all 3 of them.
I had no idea that
Yeah,
there were
same here.
that there were mini bosses, because I went straight, and not only that, but that was the first Axon that I went to. I didn't even touch the other one that was I forget what like
I forget her
like a
name.
dancer
It was
one.
it's like the seamstress, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The illusion.
I didn't even do that. I just went straight to the mask, and like GCG, I got that bar like that, and then this fudger ends up taking like 10 turns in a row and buffs and rebuffs and debuffs me, and I'm like, okay, I it's clear I'm not doing this right. So let me back up and figure this out. Dallah, I gotta ask you. So you're gonna get hit with three questions, of course, because I want to know your thoughts.
Okay.
I want to know your thoughts on like initial thoughts when it was revealed. GCG gave some really great feedback on like, hey, this.
Sorry, I like overdove into it. I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So I got to know, Dallah, your thoughts on that, and then because it's a spoiler cast and you have the JRPG pedigree, I wonder if you are willing to spoil potential future videos or discussions you might have and give an idea where it ranks on your overall JRPG scope for the year.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
So I'm hitting you hard.
Okay, yeah, oh man, that's such a hard question because with Trails in the Sky, it's really hard to say. Okay, so I'll start off with initial reaction. So I saw the same like everyone else. I saw the Xbox showcase, and honestly, like the first time I saw that, I was blown away. I was like, all right, this looks cool. I loved the aesthetic right away, and I was like, wait, this is first off, like what, you'd never see like JRPG that just isn't part of like the usual,
That's
expectations
friend,
of
right? Yeah,
exactly.
friend.
Like you usually you're waiting for like a Square Enix or Atlas or whatever these like whatever the main companies that are going to come out with these JRPGs, but all of a sudden you have this like French company coming out of nowhere on an Xbox Direct out of everything, because like you don't expect that out of an Xbox Direct. And then like with the aesthetic and then seeing the gameplay that really kind of harkens back to Dragoon. You got like Legend of Dragoon and things like that with like, or just like Shadow Hearts and things like that. Like I loved that button, like, time button mechanic. Like at the time, it thought like it always kept you engaged in the battle system. So you're not just sitting there going like, mindlessly hitting A and going through the motions, even though, I do enjoy that on occasion when I'm grinding and doing things like that. So, but that just like it was a breath of fresh air. And then aesthetic, like it looks so good, like a paint, like spoilers, like it's like a painting.
So you did there.
Yeah, it truly looks like something is being painted, and like right away, like I had to keep myself in check because I was really pumped, but I had to like hype responsibly in regards to this, because I was like, all right, I don't know, this is a new developer. I've never heard of anything they've done. This is their first game. It could go either really well or really bad. So I knew off the bat, like the second I saw it, that I was going to play it day one. Like no matter what, whether it was good or bad, I was going to test the waters. And the more they started showing it off in the different like announcements and things like that, and really deep diving into the game and seeing their passion, I was like, oh no, like they must be like really trying hard to kind of show up and make a JRPG that they respect, and they've like based on the things that they respect and they've played across the years, and like taken everything they've learned from playing all the greats and the backlog and just applying that to this game. And you see that across the board in terms of their battle system and putting their spin on that at the same time with the way they tell their story. It's like a mixture of like a really good JRPG story, but it has like that like French style to it. That's really cool. And like it's interesting because like it's apparently the story's based off of they kind of loosely based off of a French story that was never translated in English. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was called like, I have it written down somewhere. Hordes of the Counterwind.
Okay.
And so it's like basically this story in French that talks about there's like this malicious wind that is coming through and like basically killing people in this like area of France. And so they have these end up having these like expeditions that would go out, and so like they're on they have had 33 expeditions in the book, and then they're on the 34th as well. And they're going off on this whole like, you know, and the interesting thing about this book is also it goes like backwards. So like it starts from like chapter 19 and it goes to chapter 1, kind of like the perspective. And so like they kind of like take their own cultural like, you know, material that they have, and they built this really cool like story around the same mechanics. So like I imagine for the French, it is very much like just kind of a passion, because like they're sure they know the story, they've kind of like experienced it in some sort of fashion. So long-winded way of me saying I love it. But in terms of where it sits this year, I would say I'd say two. Because like Trails in the Sky is always going to be like, that's my baby right there. Like I love that, like just that remake perfection. But I would say if I was not counting remakes or anything like that, Expedition 33 would be number 1 in terms of like new IP or new game that came out this year. It's just blew me away. Like I've not felt that much like emotion and distress going through a story as I did with Expedition 33. Like by the end and like kind of like what GameCube Galaxy was saying is like in terms of like the cool thing about it is like also the discussion that was going around. It's like I haven't done that in years. Like I haven't had an experience where I was like sitting there and like finishing the prologue and just being like, I gotta like talk to people and like, you know, talk like, you know, what that was like blew my mind. And so just the discussion around it and the fact that everybody was playing it made it like such a more communal experience, which elevated the game. I think that's why it's also so like beloved now at this point, is that everybody was playing it at the same time. Like, and it was just an experience that we all had together.
Yeah, the person that I played it with, I actually was late to the party on this by maybe like 2, maybe 3 weeks, because if you guys remember, I actually couldn't. You actually couldn't get physical copies of the game after some time. They were sold out on Amazon. Shout out to Video Games Plus. We love you guys.
Yes.
That's where I got my copy, and a friend of mine was playing it on Game Pass because, again, this plays into like why it did so well. Is people were able to just, if you had the subscription service, you could try it freely with the subscription and see if it was for you or not. And like I said, they kind of got the wheels turning for the people that were waiting to get physical copies. And he hits me up with, I think he just sent me like a screenshot of his TV and was like, "Hey, I'm giving this a try." And I was like, "Oh, let me know what you think of it." And then I like maybe like 1 or 2 weeks later got a hold of the game, and then I just took off with it. And we had been talking, and I had said, "You realize that this is like the first time we've played a game together since like Halo 2." Like it was really cool. Like everybody in the whole community was playing this game.
Yeah, it's really cool. One of the things is a lot of my friends don't really get into, and when I say friends, I mean like IRL, like I physically have that sort of experience. They don't really get into the JRPGs as much. So it was something that I really didn't have in person. Besides, oh hey, Jason the 13th, you gotta play this. Oh hey, my buddy Nick, you gotta play this. Oh, so on and so forth. And like they're in the middle of doing whatever games that they're doing. I think my buddy Jason is still playing Pokemon for like the umpteenth time. But it was something where all of us here through the internet community really came together and enjoyed it. And there's a lot to be said about some of the what the hell moments. And this game absolutely had that, and especially the prologue. And I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew that something like that was coming because they had to show the stakes. So I'm going to open up to you guys the question, but I have to answer it first because playing Acts 1, 2, and 3, the biggest moment that still hits, and before doing this, I rewatched this scene because I'm such a gooner. I recorded footage of various parts of my playthrough. I rewatched it, and it still hit like a truck. The scene where Gustav at his end was playing it off like there was nothing that was going on. He's just picking rocks or something like that for Maye, and just right then and there. You just know something is. And there's one other game where a fellow protagonist has that sort of end, and it really gave me Chrono Trigger vibes. Where the idea where, okay, this main protagonist has, spoiler alert if you've never played Chrono Trigger, but with
I never played it and beat it, but go ahead.
With Chrono Trigger, fortunately, with Chrono Trigger, you can get the main hero back via a optional sort of quest. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this quest has got to be coming, and especially the idea that, okay, this guy Verso, it's voiced by Ben Starr. I'm thinking, okay, that maybe this guy is really meant to be the lead, just because, okay, Charlie Cox, he's a well-known actor. How many lines can they afford him to record? Ben Starr, not to say that he's not well-known, but he's more for his voice acting chops. Are they trying to play him off as an actor? But like, my rational mind is going to that, but the emotional side is like, really, that's it for him? That's all? And like, that hurt. That was really, that was probably the biggest shock or pain value for me.
It was a shocker, but I don't feel like I felt like they didn't allow the gravity to fully like drop you, because we get Verso quite literally like 15 minutes after Gustav dies. And then I remember, if you guys remember the scene where Mael and Loon and everybody is burying Gustav at the tree, Mael has a line where she says something along like, I don't know whether I considered you more a brother or a father, because to me you were both. And it's almost the same with Verso. All the parallels between Gustav and him, they have very similar movesets, aside from like From Fire, which plays into Verso's personal story. You can even unlock Gustav's hair for Verso. So,
yeah, I want to say for me, looking back, I'm in agreement with you, Fox. Where, the prologue. I remember thinking by the end of that, I was like, okay, you got my attention. Like, shit hit the fan. This is interesting. It was a little bit more of a grotesque way than I expected. Like, I didn't even expect the game to get as violent as it got at the end of that prologue. I'm like, oh damn! Like, there's people getting decapitated left. Like, what on earth is happening? But the end of Act 1, what for me, I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, it's not common that the main protagonist that the game is portraying to you for hours and hours of playing, and he's on the box art, and it's like you're like, okay, you're invested in this character, is killed off, and like you said, it's at one point I'm like, I don't know, maybe he comes back, maybe he's not totally dead, but then you play through the whole game like, no, he's dead as can be. Like, he's gone.
Oh yeah.
And like it hit me. I'm like, I got.
Depending on the ending you chose.
Yeah.
Oh my!
We're gonna get to that.
True.
We are gonna get to that.
But I have to add something to what. I want to throw a wild card at Dallah after this too. But to what you were saying, Fox, specifically about how you had friends that were kind of off doing their own thing, but they were honed in on enough of the conversation to take time to play Expedition 33. That speaks volumes to the success of like why you're seeing this game do what it did, get all the accolades that it did, because you guys all know it, but like a lot of people look at JRPGs and they don't feel like they can approach them. Like they think it's technical, maybe there's too much dialogue, the mechanics are too complicated. There's just something about them. They think, okay, this is for those people. But they go and they watch Expedition 33, and maybe they see the interface and how the bold lettering or how easy it is to navigate through the combat, and maybe they have it on Game Pass and they can just try it, and if they don't like it, they can just move on. But they look at that and they're like, well, maybe there is something in here for me, and then they try it. And I think it's one of the most accessible RPGs of any as well. And Dallah, what I was going to ask you. You being somebody who has quite a few, probably more JRPG under their belt than at least me in GameCube. I know Fox plays a lot of them too. There is somebody on X. I'm not worried about name dropping. Her name is Nuri. She did the unthinkable a while back when she was talking about this game. Shout out if she watches this. And she made the declaration that this maybe isn't even actually an RPG, but rather a turn-based game. And this got all kinds of smoke tossed up in the air.
But based on what would that not the
Well,
game classifies as an RPG
you know,
in like every way.
based on like, and I kind of understand the argument where it's like, to me, moving through the world in like the overworld felt more like almost like Super Mario World, or I recently been playing Mario Galaxy, where like you're in some of these places for quite literally like 15 seconds to grab an item, then you're out of it. Or you go into another world and there's nobody to really talk to. Most JRPGs, you know, you've got towns, right? You've got all these conversations, whereas in this game, you really just had the gestural, which plays into the narrative that they were created by the painters and all that stuff too. But like, you're not having all these side quests and, you know, the classic JRPG tropes. And there's things about the mechanics and stuff too, but I'm not saying that it's Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 is a whole nother thing. Like, you can make that argument and I won't try to fight you. But this one, I'm not so sure.
I would say, like, for this game, I would count it as a JRPG.
No, a RPG.
Okay.
Yeah. You gotta put the beret on the J. So, like, I know there's a discourse online, like especially on like Twitter lately, that like, well, you know, they're not Japanese, they're French, so it can't be a JRPG, and they're not like it can't be that, and that's like, to me, like, first off, the name JRPG was not even like used up until like probably like mid 2000s, like maybe 2003, 2000, like early 2000, maybe, like, yeah. So like before that, they just called them RPGs.
Yep.
You know, like there was no term, like back when we played SNES RPGs, like it was just like an RPG. You just played that, and they were from Japan. It wasn't called anything specific. And like the idea of a JRPG is kind of like, it's a feeling rather than kind of like it has to be from Japan itself or from a Japanese, you know, developer. I would say like it's like the feeling you get in a game. And I feel like with Expedition 33, especially when you like look at like what you were talking about with the overworld and things like that, like that's harkens to like old school like design structures for JRPGs. Like a lot of the old greats had, like, that's what people who are JRPG fans are nostalgic for. They love that overworld. You know, when they see that in a JRPG that's like modern, they're like, oh wow, they're doing that. I'm like pumped for that. And so like, you know, these people, like, when they made this game, they took a lot of those like aspects that they loved about the JRPGs they loved originally, and they kind of made their own spin on it. And there are some side quests that you can do, and there's things that you can kind of like go into little areas to get items, but that's like similar to like playing Dragon Quest 1 and 2 right now, like with the remakes. Like there's, you know, you're on this overworld and you can find these little like, you know, hidden areas that you can go in just to get like either a little bit of like a hint dialogue or some items and things like that. So there's like that aspect that of JRPGs that, like, you know, you're not always going to towns, but also like with the context of Expedition 33, it's very isolated. Like these are like these like the narrative is like around isolation, and
you're in
like
a camp.
the world. Yeah, exactly. Like they're not going to encounter that many people as they go out and explore this world, because there's not many people left at this point. So they have to just like, you're just dealing with the gesturals and things like that, and so it's very much like a very contained story with a specific group of people. And that's why, like, that's what also makes it kind of really amazing, because you really get like passionate about every person. Like every tragedy hurts. So like when the end of Act 1, like you've spent so much time with
Gustav and Lune and Maye.
Yeah, with them, and like just seeing like and just experiencing it through Miles' like perspective, and like knowing that like that's trauma. Like she is going to not, like, that's her dealing, and watching Gustav die in front of her just hits you, and you just feel for her too. Like you are empathetic to her at the same time. And so like Act 1 just blew me away. Like I did not see that coming. Like as it got closer, I was like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna do anything like this? And then it happened, and I was like, oh no, what? This is wild. And I think they set the stage with like the scene where they're like, you know, coming onto the, you know, getting off the boat basically, and everyone gets slaughtered for the most part. Like many of them.
We had seen Renoir kill prior to Gustav already, like in math.
Exactly. Like they set the expectation that this world is mean. Like there's going to be a lot of death, and there's like they're not going to shy away from it.
And
so, like, they just set it up.
the idea that there is value in Gustav's life, literally with Lune preventing him from killing himself. Like this man's life is valuable. So a number of ways. Not only was he one of the few survivors, but that event on top of being like the foster brother / father, it just masterful crafting of the story to just really show how important Gustav was. And I think beyond the metaphorical sense of the ending and which ending you chose and why you chose it, which again that's another teaser. We'll touch upon that, but
I'm pumped for that.
The idea that this really is something that still hits so hard versus the whole like questioning choices that the ending does. So Dallah, was that the big shocker moment for you, would you say? Or was there another moment within the game?
I feel like that was the big shocker. I think everything else that happened after that was kind of like, you started to build your idea of what's happening in the game. Like, so like, they feeding you all these little like hints as you're like progressing. Like when you see the little boy and you're like, who's this little boy that they keep like showing as you're going through this, and like, why is this like little boy dealing with all these things, like, and then you just realize like that's Verso, and like that's his entity, like just wanting to give up. He doesn't want to do this anymore as a kid, and then they just kind of feed you. So like nothing else was like as shocking, but like once you get to the end, you're like, oh, like that it was more like distress of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, like I need to make a decision, I need to do this, like, so it's like less of a shock and more of like you're really feeling like for these characters, and you just didn't know. Like I just chose on a whim. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it this way because I'm gonna like commit to this like thought process. And it was like, I see all the other like reasons why you can choose the other direction, but I was like, but yeah,
the magic
that was a big shock.
Yeah, I think the magic of the game and like what catches people and has made this game the sensation that it is what you were saying a little while ago about how you cared for the characters quickly. Like that's a big thing with RPGs. If it's going to take you 25 hours to like really start like giving a lick about any of these people, like this game within the first hour, even in just before you really were hardly getting actual gameplay, you're invested just on intrigue alone. And I don't know about you guys, but just like act for act, maybe if I can speak on Act 1 a little bit. First of all, I thought the Lampmaster boss is one of the top 3 like coolest bosses in the game. There's a lot of stuff to watch. Not that bosses get weaker in the game, but I think by the time you kind of get to endgame, they've really sort of narrowed it down to like XP packed like parry farming for the most part. After Duelist, there's just a lot of like really tanky fights. Duelist was cool. There were some other ones, but act wise, just in terms of like impact, I feel like I think Act 1 is probably the strongest, like you guys said, in terms of emotion. Act 2 ends with Miles' letter, which for me, as I differ from Dallah here, I think that the end of Act 2 was like the big moment for me. Is just Verso reading Alicia's letter. Oh, wow. Like that just sort of starts to like tie the knot, and then when we go into like the beginning of Act 3, where Clea is explaining kind of everything by explaining it to Alicia before entering the canvas, is sort of explaining like, this is what our parents are doing in here. This is why I don't care. I'm trying to like get back at the writers. This is my way of handling my grief. You guys go and do whatever you want. I don't care. But even though I think that Act 3 is probably the weaker of all of them, regardless, not counting necessarily the way that the game ends, we'll talk about that more later, but just the momentum going in from Act 2 to 3 keeps it going. But ultimately, I think that they kind of do go in descending order.
Yeah, and like it's interesting. Act 1 obviously wraps up where it is. I don't think I've heard of anyone say that they were not shocked at how Act 1 ends, right? I don't think there's not a single person that said, "Oh yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away," right? But I do think that they did a great job of making sure that each act ended in such a way where you're like, wait, what? Right? So like that, even that moment where Act 2 ends and now we start Act 3, which is funny because Act 2, I remember thinking at one point, I'm like, man, I might be getting close to the end of the game. Maybe it's just too right? And it does this thing where you think you're at the end, but this is a double-edged sword, there are certain forms of media, or whether it's a TV show, it's a movie, it's a game, where you think you're reaching the end, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm about to wrap it up, and then it keeps going, and you're like, oh my god, why is this still going on? Like, this should have wrapped up. Whereas this game did a phenomenal job of being like, wait, it's not over yet, but wait, there's more, and like, there's more that's unwrapping. And by the time you start Act 3, and there's that oh crap moment where it's like, wait a minute, this is all within this. This is all within the canvas. Like, what on earth? Like, it does blow your mind in a sense, because it's, again, you start seeing those clues. Once things are revealed, then you look at the world itself and you're like, wow, that makes complete sense. It's not like it's out of left field. They ensured that the world you were exploring and taking part in, the characters, everything, all fit the overall narrative, so that by the time everything's unveiled, it's not something out of left field for just the sake of shock value, but rather, like you said, like you guys have been saying, you tie yourself with these characters and you tie yourself with this world, and when you realize that it's all make-believe, right? Like, it's all just, it's their way of handling grief, it's their but it's not the real world. And it's something that I would expect, like something like Christopher Nolan to do with a movie. It's like one of those moments, But yeah, like, and then ultimately it does affect when you get to the end of the game, because, and I really am curious to hear what you guys chose with that. I'm sure we're probably going to be getting to that shortly.
I think what we should do with the ending is we'll just go. I'll call on to each of you. You just say, I picked. Okay, so are you guys saying Maye, Marai?
Mayel, I think is what I'm saying.
Mayel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it's been a little bit since I've heard her name be said, but Mayel. So what we'll do is we'll just say, who did we pick at the end? And then in the order that I gave it, we'll do the why. So first, which again, so I'll start off. I'll say I picked Verso. GCG, who did you pick?
Maya.
Dallah.
Verso.
And Fake.
My first time was Mayel, yeah.
Wow, this is an awesome split.
This is good.
And that is interesting. It's a 50-50 split. I think, but that makes it more exciting.
We could not have planned that better.
That's very interesting.
Love it.
One thing I'll add to like the way that we did our choices, just going back to Act 3 just really quickly, is there's an interesting juxtaposition to the way you can actually play through Act 3. And it's almost like if you're thinking in the lines of Verso or Mayel, because Act 3 can actually be really short. If you're one of those people, and I know some people who played the game this way, where they were basically just story beat after story beat. We're not going to other worlds. We're going where we're supposed to go, and we're finishing the game. If you do that in Act 3, you can actually go straight to Lumiere and basically shut the thing down if you're ready for it. If you're Verso, right? That's how Verso would think. But if you're Mayel and you're like, oh, I don't want the game to end. I'm just gonna suck up all the end game stuff now. Like, I'm gonna stay inside of the painting or the game as long as I can. It's interesting, like the sort of juxtaposition between choices in how you play the game and also the endings that you're offered. So anyway, go ahead, Fox.
Yeah. So when Gustav died, I could swear that there were the items that would do permanent stat boosts and everything. I made sure to apply that to Mayel from there on out. And in Act 3, I did every single side quest, even the god-awful platforming aspects that were at the beaches for the gestrels. Even the one where you have to climb the Mario 64
The worst part of the game.
I did that, and what did I get? Some stupid skin or swimsuit for Verso. If I remember, that's what I got. That's all that I got.
Yeah,
I'm like, really?
Terrible.
So I did all that. And most importantly, I did the Alicia side quest, where as Mayel, you have to fight Alicia, and with that comes the maximum bond, where Verso reveals he could have saved Gustav. He chose not to, so that Mayel was motivated to end the paintress and end the painting. With all that said, that's why I chose Verso, because the context of the final fight in my mind was to stop the real Renoir from ending the painting and doing it on his terms to really force everybody out. But Verso really was the true victim in all of this. As Dallah, you mentioned the little boy, the soul, that was his little soul fragment as a little boy, stuck having to maintain this painting. And pain, after I beat as Verso, I YouTubed and saw Mael's and saw Verso pleading, please don't let me do this, please don't let me do this, and like that made me tear up. And the idea that he is like the victim in this, considering in the real world it was Verso that saved Mael's life. There's value to Mael's life beyond the painting. That's what Verso wanted. He wanted her to live her life, even if with her being disfigured, even with all of that, and her losing her voice, she's still alive. That's something the real Verso will never do, never have. And I felt like, for me personally, it was about like fighting demons and really like sometimes life sucks and it kicks you in the ass, but you got to get in there, you got to fight, you got to face it, and you have to face your grief, because sometimes there's other fights to fight, like Clair is apparently planning on doing. We've all four of us, and even our audience have had moments in our lives where sometimes it's a hell of a thing getting up and breathing and really having that, but sometimes that's all you have, and that's what Verso's ending really meant to me.
Regarding the you referenced Verso basically confessing that he could have saved Gustav and didn't. Remember that we never play as the real Verso, because the Verso we have is literally just a depiction of a dead guy, and number two, Gustav is painted. Like it's crazy. And you mentioned the encounter with Alicia. Since it's a spoiler cast, it's whatever. There is like a 4-hour side quest as well where you can fight Clair as well and encounter that and unpack a whole bunch of stuff with her. She's my favorite character in the game by light years. Even before I guess it's not necessarily, actually maybe you can't do that until you've beaten the game or not, but I think it's in the Clair area below, like the big tower you have to go through. It's like Renoir's canvas, I think. It takes forever. It's a massive puzzle. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that.
Oh, it's amazing. Dude, I don't blame you with Clair, because there's so much of a universe. GCG, so you mentioned you went the Maia route. What were your thoughts and your I think that factored to that decision?
So here's the interesting part. So I chose Maia mainly because, I took this personally, believe it or not. So it got down to this point because a few years ago I lost my brother in a freak accident. Okay, never got to have a last word with him. Nothing. So playing this game and seeing where the story went, and seeing that you have two sides of the coin. You have Maia, who's hurting because she feels it's her fault that that Verso's gone, like her brother's gone, right? Or that the whole thing happened. And you have Verso, who's really just like, end my pain, please, right? And I wasn't thinking of it deeply that way at the time. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go with Maia. Honestly, she's dealing with loss. That's a hard thing sometimes to deal with. You finally have an opportunity to maybe not lose that loved one, but when I made that decision, it was how I related, where it's like, what would I do to see my brother again one more time? I took it personally. So it was a heavy decision for me to make. But then when I watched the ending, I'm like, yeah, this is a mess up ending. This is not probably what I would have chose, actually.
Yeah.
So then I watched Verso's ending, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably the ending I would have chosen if I knew that was the actual result, because that's what I end with. Because I think at the end of the day, the messaging was clear, right? You either, no matter which ending you choose, and I know the director stated this too, there really isn't a good ending, no matter what. Like, there is loss and sacrifice in either one. But at the end of the day, like, if I knew what the outcome would be of both, or if I at least maybe play some of the side stuff to fully understand some more of the lore, because I didn't. By Act 3, I was beelining it to the end, because I was like, okay, like I'm already limited on time to play through a game, so like I let me get through it.
Yeah.
Even though I was fully invested in really enjoying it. But if I heard a little bit more from Verso and like more of that unraveled, yes, I would have chose Verso, because especially after seeing the ending, I'm like, yeah, that really is how it should end, because in the end, no matter how much pain you go through personally or loss, you have to move forward. You have to move forward.
Yeah.
So while I chose Mael's ending for my own personal reasons initially, and then realizing it later on it wasn't quite the right ending, I preferred Verso's ending, even though I chose the wrong one.
Yeah.
Dallah, how about you? What were your thoughts and reasons for choosing Verso?
Yeah, they're similar to yours, Bruno. To the point where, like, by the end of the game and seeing what Verso has gone through and what Mael is also going through, and seeing like just them trying to appeal to Mael and trying to get her to understand that she can't run away from reality, and like she is only making it worse for herself, and she is spiraling further and further out of control into a point of like just self-harm in this way of just like hiding away in this painting. And so I was just like when you get to the point of that choice, I was like, all right, like Verso deserves like true like death at this. Like this version of Verso just needs to be let go. Just for his sake and then for Mael's sake, because she's never going to move on. She's going to hold on to this, and it's going to continue whether the world still spirals out of control, because she's not fully in control. So like even if you chose Mael's ending, you know, it could lead to, you know, further problems down the line again. Like you might like things might, you know, generate again because she's not fully healed. So her mental state is going to continue to create chaos because she has the power to create the chaos. And so at the end of the day, I was like, all right, Verso needs all of this. And so I went with Verso, and just seeing that ending, and because like it's such a heavy family drama.
Yeah.
Like the story is so hell-bent on family drama, and it's like built around this fantastical like situation, and seeing like the father trying to appeal, but he doesn't know how to appeal, and he's like taking the extreme measures of trying to force the situation, which is not usually the right way to do it. Because like if someone is dealing with like grief and all these things, like if you're trying to force them through a situation, then they're gonna shut you down, like, or shut themselves out even further. And so seeing Mael further shut him out and like fight through this, and then Verso kind of playing this like double agent to this whole situation, trying to like appeal to Mael, but at the same time kind of like lead her in a direction that gets to where he needs to be, where to the point where like we need to destroy this all and end this whole situation. It was just it was so good. Like I loved that ending, and then watching the Mael's ending and seeing the pain, and like you can see it's like it's so uncanny valley in that moment where like you feel uncomfortable watching everybody just exist in that moment, where like he's sitting there playing the piano and he's just like kill me,
like
please,
like
I
a
hate this.
play.
Yeah, like he's like yeah, like play for me, and like you just see him, and he's completely dead inside, and he does not know what to do with himself, and that is to me is like a horror story. Like
Right.
that in itself is like watching an end of a really like a horror story, where like if you ever watch like Krampus, like at the end of that movie when they're all stuck in the globe and they're all just like having this moment of like, you know, it seems like it's like perfect, but it's in reality it's truly hell.
Right.
And so like that's just how it felt. Like, you know, Verso just felt right, you know, that she needed to move on, she needed to get out of the painting, despite having to sacrifice, you know, everybody in the painting. You know, there's a whole more ethical like ideas of like were they real, like do they have a conscious
into that? Yeah.
like there's a whole idea of like, they are their own people, but they're also made up in this whole world. Like it's like a very morally gray situation. So like that's how everyone, I think, is like that's what makes the ending so like personal, I think, for everybody, and that's why everyone makes their choice. And it's so like I've talked to Branden about this, and Branden feels like very strongly towards Mael's. Like he thinks Verso is the evil one. And that's like just from his perspective, like how he felt like that narrative flow is like it's a very personal take. And so I think that's like the beauty of this game is that like everybody has like everyone's dealt with grief, loss, or anything like that, like will have their own personal way of how they want to end this game. And so there's no real answer, but it's always going to be kind of sad. It's always going to be like a bad ending because no one's truly happy at the end.
I feel like I kind of skipped over why I chose Mael for something else I was answering, but I felt like as soon as I ended the game, I was waiting for the screen to go dark and say, "You are dead." Like, I felt like it was by far the wrong choice, especially like, you said like, they don't even heed Renoir's warning. Once we find out that Renoir is the one that's trying to like keep everything together and pull them out of it, because he quite literally tells them like, it's almost like in the movie Interstellar where like the longer you're on this planet, like they're gonna kill you. Or the people that are away from you are going to die. If you spend time in the canvas, it's going to erode you to the point where you're going to die in our real life. And they don't care. Aline doesn't care, and Mael goes back, and then you see that she's basically has become the goddess or paintress of her own world. And Gustav is back, and you're like, this is very odd. And then meanwhile, you've got Clea that's wanting to go to war with the writers, and the women in this game are just absolutely nuts. But speaking to what you were saying about like what's real and what's not, I have a quote from, they did a piece in the Washington Post about Expedition 33 that I pulled up here, where they said the game's story has caused furious online debate, particularly its ending. That was intended long before the game was even called Expedition 33. This is Guillaume Broche, the director of the game, and he insists on leaving it up to the audience's interpretation. However, he did clarify that the audience is meant to think of and connect with the game's world and characters as real and human. Quote, "If you don't, it means we failed as writers, so yes, I hope you do."
I mean, just based on the conversation we're having, we all absolutely have connected with the world and the characters, which is kind of a crazy thing to think of because the world can't be any more fantastical beyond the sort of neo French Revolution type world that this exists in. I mean, seeing the Eiffel Tower twisted in that certain way made me think we were way in the future, but as it turns out, we're way in the past. So either way, it's this sort of fantastical thought, which I got to give a shout out to the devs on that, because normally it's, you're in some sort of like fantasy world, and it almost always turns out to be post-apocalyptic from like our real world. So like this was an opposite twist in that way. So that was another like.
What's truly amazing about that too is like they have the depiction of the Eiffel Tower, but I don't know about you guys, at no point did I associate Paris with the world we were in. Not once.
Yeah, I was the same way. I wasn't even thinking of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I don't think it's supposed to be Paris, but still there's the Eiffel Tower there.
Yeah, it's really odd.
It's still the whole French allegory. It's the like, hey, just a reminder, it's within some form of France.
Exactly.
Yeah, just to cap off though, and then obviously wanting to go back and do what I and other people would call true ending is the Verso ending did feel more. It had the finality that I was looking for. I'm the type where I don't like being asked to have a choice when someone has given me this much story, and then at the very, very end, it's like, okay, now you finish it. It's like if you were to have gotten through 9 years of reading Harry Potter books, and then you shut it, and you're just like, you didn't write it, but you're like, okay, like this is basically kind of how I wanted it to go. And then you're left. It's like, no, we'll let you do it. And it's like, yeah, I know that speaks to like why this game is like in constant conversation now, because there's so many. If it didn't end that way, there wouldn't be half as many conversations happening, surrounding the game, and it can go on. It will go on forever, I'm sure. But yeah, in most cases, as it pertains to games specifically, I want the story basically delivered to me. I'll play. It doesn't have to be linear, but don't make me make the choice.
But I think
it's
I think.
interesting.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
No,
I was
go
gonna.
ahead.
I was gonna say that, but that's what makes a video game a video game. The literal interaction that
And it's
we.
role playing, right?
Yeah, that we can have as a player that you won't get in a book, a TV show, a movie, or anything like that. Of course, I say book, but I mean we grew up with the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Oh, yeah.
But like that's what makes this to further ascends it as a larger bespoke piece of art. I mean, and a video game.
That is true.
All in one, that we can be given that choice, and there really isn't a wrong choice, as Dallah had mentioned. I mean, Branden, aka Just the Gems, he really has a good argument for that being his own personal take on what should be the ending, and that I think that's what makes it really that great. Want to kind of wrap things up here to sort of discuss the idea of, do we need a follow-up game to this where it explores the painter versus writer world, or would a sequel be better served in a completely different time, completely different universe, but we still have the same type of play mechanics, turn-based, and not necessarily the same art style, but the general sort of realistic-esque fantasy thing. GCG, what are your thoughts?
I mean, here's the thing. This is a tricky thing because mechanically, they've basically created something that's truly special, right? Like I stated earlier, I'm not into JRPGs very much. I don't like turn-based combat systems where it's like, okay, I hit you, now I'm going to stand there, I'm just going to take it like a champ, you hit me, now it's my turn, I'm going to hit you, right? Like, I like being in full control of combat. And they found this perfect blend of, yeah, it's turn-based, but you are fully in control of it. And I don't want to see that gameplay style go to waste, right? It's got this beautiful aesthetic. You know, it pops, the combat just feels fantastic. The camera work, the sound, the visual effects, it all jives. So I want to see more of that. As far as building upon it with the world, right? You have this world where it's about the painters, but we don't, you know, they could do something with the writers, yes. And the director stated that Clair Obscur is going to be a series. It's going to
Yes.
it really is going to be more of something. What I'm hoping they somehow achieve, though, and I know they will, but the shock value that this game provided, because it was so new and so fresh, and you didn't know like anything about this world. Now we know a good chunk about this world. So how do you now provide that same level of unique, fresh perspective in a universe that's been built to some extent, but ensure that you're going to still shock new players or players of the upcoming sequel or spiritual, you know, a new installment that might be a different timeline or a different story. Now that we understood how they kind of evoked this game, I think the bottom line is I want to see a new game from them. I want to see a new installment. I just want to see them take their time and ensure that they've got it. But what I think helps is that they've got the gameplay mechanics down. They've got their engine down. You know, even though it was built on an Unreal Engine, but they've got the foundation's there. They need to spend the time to ensure that whatever story comes next is going to still shock players from start to finish in a way where Expedition 33 achieved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that initially I was excited for more just in terms of the world, but stepping back and like looking at it, having enough time to sort of unpack things, I think I prefer it as a singular piece. I think I prefer it as like, yeah, I mean, the writers can be enigmatic. We don't have to have a DLC that shows us who they are. I think the game can I think it stands on its own merits. This is French Final Fantasy, you guys. Like we're gonna get something brand new. I think Broach even said like we may already be cooking, I think is what his quote was. Like they're kind of already working on something. Yeah, and just in case we don't have time to get to this, I don't know how much longer we're gonna go. I'm fine with whatever. I have to speak to the haters of the people that were talking about this game early on. You already talked about it earlier a little bit, Dallah, with Legend of Dragoon. They said Legend of Dragoon did it first. Paper Mario: A Thousand Year Door did it first. Parappa the Rapper did it first. But who did it better? Who did it better?
I don't understand the discourse around that, because like there's no such thing as originality. Like everybody is influenced by some sort of art they've experienced across like their their life, and so like we're just making things that appeal to us based off of the things that we've experienced. And so like, yeah, there's going to be similarities. Who cares? Like they just took what they loved about games like Legend of Dragoon and Paper Mario, and they're like, let's apply that, because no one's like, we haven't done that in a while. So like, why not bring it back? So yeah. I don't know, that like that discourse is just ridiculous. People need to just stop.
Yeah, and I feel
honestly,
like
I think it's. Oh, go ahead, Fox.
Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, the idea, even with controversy now, with people being angry with it getting so many nominations, and it's a turn-based RPG, what is this kind of thing? And it's like, none of that really matters as long as we've got the quality product and we are all enjoying it. I mean,
yeah.
It goes back to that value, and you got these individuals that are angry about that, and it's like, There are some people that were angry with games like Elden Ring sweeping and doing all that sort of jazz. And while I'm not the biggest fan at all of the Dark Souls series, like, I'm happy for people who have enjoyed it. Why would I want to crap on what people enjoy? And that's really what that is. And the originality concept, Final Fantasy wasn't original. That was derived off of games like Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest wasn't original. That derived off of like Dragon Slayer and some of the really old classic Falcom early 80s Japanese PC games. So, and then those of course were off of D&D. So
yeah, basically they took their ideas from things like Ultima and like all these other like old like,
as far as you want.
Yeah. Like you could keep going. Like at the end of the day, like they're all compounding on each other. Like they've all taken what they loved and they just elaborate further and make it their own. So like there's no such like there's no one's going to be fully original at this point.
No.
And, but in terms of like my thought on the sequel, first thing, we need an Expedition 60 game. Just like anything. Just I want to see like just the Swole team make their way. They don't wear clothes.
That was the guys that like did the whole thing naked or whatever.
their whole perception is that clothes makes them weak, and it took them as far as the end of the game.
That's so, insane. Like, I actually forgot about that.
No, yeah, it was my favorite thing I came across. I was like, because like it was a moment of levity reading, like hearing that story at that end. I was like, this is ridiculous. Why is this? This is such like a weird story to have like in this very tense moment. But in terms of like, I think it should be like an anthology. Like I think they can play on the same themes, the same ideas, maybe kind of the same world, but like not the same people, maybe. Right. I think like I love how it ends. Like anything further will just kind of water it down. I think it needs to have that bittersweet ending is just perfect for how this story was told. Like it doesn't need any more. I don't need it to explain any further. Like I know that she's gonna have to deal with reality now, and that's it. And or you're living in the world. Like whichever choice you made, like that's it. That's how it should end. That's my take on that.
I think you're right. I think maybe if I only got the Verso ending, maybe I would just sit there and imagine, like, what about Mael? Like, but you offered us that, so maybe this is the right way to go about it. Yeah.
There are certain properties where a one-off for a new IP is perfectly fine. If it has a fantastic start, but it wraps things up in a satisfying way where you can kind of close that door and be like, hey, that was the story. Like you're good with that. Like, not that I want to go off the rails here, but this is like a case in point. Something I think of, and I know this is a hot take, but this is my take. Something I think about is like The Last of Us. I thought the first game was fantastic. Did not need a sequel. Got a sequel. It was dog shit. I hated it. I thought it was absolutely awful. And I remember thinking, I'm like, it did not need a sequel because it had a fitting end that should have been a new IP, one-off, perfectly fine as is, and then you move on. It's kind of like one of those things of knowing where not to go too far. If you've got something that's really special, analyze it, look at it, and be like, is it going to affect what we created prior if we go too far, if we go too much? Then all of a sudden, right, it's, you kind of like either die young enough to be a hero or live long enough to become a villain.
I think I care less about. I think I care less about what they decide to do narratively with the next installment or sequel, and more about what they're going to do to innovate that combat system, because that's really the meat and potatoes that gets talked about. Is like people loved that parry system. They loved the combat interface. They loved the ridiculous ways that you could stack Lumina and not be punished for running 200 of them all at once. But I know we didn't get into that maybe as far as I wanted to go with it. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how they innovate off of that combat, because I'm certain they're not just gonna cut and paste. There's no way.
Oh yeah, there'll be some innovation, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, for God's sakes, every character had a whole new gameplay mechanic in there. So it's like, hey, we got the core foundation, but any character we throw in is going to be a totally fresh take. So I can see them building heavily on that.
I know I platinumed the game. Did anybody fight Simon?
I didn't fight Simon. I've heard of Simon, but I didn't fight Simon. He's the super boss, right?
Yeah, he's from Expedition Zero, I think. He was he's also Klea's love interest and was manipulated to defeat the Axons. He was the first person to defeat an Axon, and she used him. But and also, if you play long enough, you actually unlock Gomage as one of Mael's special attacks, and it is devastatingly awesome.
Ooh.
Very cool.
Look that up.
I need to look that up. Yeah.
Very
I don't
cool.
think I've seen it.
You can actually play through Endgame in probably 4 hours front to back. Once you're skipping all the scenes and going straight through, like, NG Plus on this game it's not, especially if you cut through if you do all like the tower and stuff your first time through like I did, there's not a lot left the second time through. Even on expert, you will cut through it.
Ooh, that is good to know, definitely. Yeah, so before we wrap things up, because I know we're hurting for time, is there any other questions or last call things that you guys want to bring up regarding Clair Obscur Expedition 33?
I mean, it's a Spoilercast, so whoever's watching's already played the game. Otherwise, I'd tell people, go play the game. But I am excited to see that it is nominated for as many things as it is, because it is while Dallah said this thing is like, as games being as original anymore, right? Everything derives from something. But I think because it was such a fresh take in an industry that is so like burdened by greed and copy and paste things of what's popular and what's current, and it was finally a breath of fresh air where it's like, no, here's a game where we're not following the AAA tropes. Here's a game from developers who got bored working on AAA stuff to make something that brings you back to peak gaming, right? The 90s, the 2000s. Mm-hmm. This was an era where you had people in the industry that genuinely loved gaming. They loved making games. It wasn't about just like, hey, we're going to make a game just because. Like, no. They wanted to make a game that they knew they wanted to reward the consumer with something special. And this is exactly what this game was. So, I mean, listen, like I said, at the end of the day, it's one of those games that easily my top 5 games of the year. I'm like torn because it's like it's tied in first place for me. There's only one other game this year that I could not shut up about. And played and put more hours than I care to admit, which was Ninja Gaiden Ragebound.
That game is incredible.
Yep. I need to get it. GCG was the first person in our group that was talking about it, and there wasn't a Black Friday sale on it this year yet, so I didn't get it yet, but I want it.
And it was like, I think I was like telling the group too. I think it was like 2 or 3 days later. I'm like, I platinumed it already.
And Dallah Games did a full playthrough of it, right, Dallah? You live streamed that?
I streamed it.
So make sure you guys you check that out.
my last stream I did, what is it? I had like a bottle of bourbon next to me, and every time I died, I took a sip. It was a rough stream.
To add on what Marcello was saying about just the nature of how the game was made, I actually think that it's important that this game wins Game of the Year and receives all its accolades. I think for way too long, and this might be really controversial, but I think that the games industry has gotten way too comfortable with gigantically large dev teams, $300-400 million budgets. Something had to come in and act as a referendum and check the industry as a whole and show like, no, like we can do it too. Like you don't have to spend 6 years and $300 million with 2,000 people development teams to create something that's magical. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of I think maybe some of these larger developers are worried about that, but I think ultimately it's a healthy and good thing long term.
100%.
Yeah.
I think like for me, so like there's this whole idea of like this game is bringing JRPGs back. It's not really bringing JRPGs back. I think of it in the way of who said it best. Professor Noctis had a tweet not too long ago, and he basically stated that Expedition 33 is to this generation what Final Fantasy VII was to our generation. Like
yes.
It is going to be something that people are going to think about, years to come, and it's going to be that game, that pivotal like JRPG that kind of pulls the people who generally don't play JRPGs back in, because it did something different and it did something new. It kind of like, experimented, and it just like did everything right in that way. And so like it's appealed to so many people who don't play JRPGs, which is awesome. Like getting more people to like understand that like there's a lot more to that. JRPGs aren't always the same. There's a lot there, and it might make them want to experiment and try some other things out as well. But yeah, that's how I think of it. Is like Expedition 33 is kind of that pivotal game for this generation currently.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts on it is the fact that as a JRPG fan, Square Enix has taken notice of this game, and you can see it from little Nomura-like art pieces to even a couple little, oh look, it's Maie and Aerith, and one's drawing the other. Square Enix has taken notice. So the hope is that means that they see a AA level game can achieve high success. A turn-based RPG can achieve high success. So therefore, it's possible that some of their more mainline series that have deviated away from that can also achieve that same success by following that same formula. There are some fans of that series that believe that Square Enix has really missed the plot, and especially some fear with what fans have seen or have thought what's going to be with Dragon Quest 12, and especially why that's been churning for so long. There's real fear, and the idea that Clair Obscur has the success with turn-based and other games, maybe not as many sales, games like Metaphor, and then of course Like a Dragon, and so on and so forth. All these games going back to turn-based or turn-based to begin with, still seeing that, should open Square Enix's eyes enough to right the ship for some of their, we'll say, more flagship series. So
I'm really glad that you brought that up specifically, because it's almost like they've had stage fright, because you all know, and I know, that Square Enix hasn't made a true turn-based game since Final Fantasy X. And part of it, I know that they say like, well, we don't like to repeat the same mechanics. Baloney. Like the golden era of FF 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those were all core turn-based. And it's not like they're sitting around like not watching, like you said, Metaphor winning all these awards. Persona 5 won all the awards. Expedition 33 gets all the awards. Like, yeah, there was a time and place where you guys did this better than anybody. Like, I hope they're watching. Like, I hope that they're really paying attention, and I really wonder what they're going to do next, because if anything, Final Fantasy 16 was kind of a really bad statement on, kind of where their head is in terms of where that franchise goes. I know this isn't about Final Fantasy, so
yeah.
That's another Spoilercast.
Yeah. But my hope is that they're going to maybe give a little bit more oomph to the creators and developers via Team Asano, whom have been making these turn-based games and turn-based remakes, and be able to give them the high-budget look without the actual crazy amounts of dollars, but maintaining the quality. But I mean,
that somewhere in the offices of Square Enix, Nomura's got drawings of Renoir and Clea, and they've all got belts and all the craziness, and it's chaotic, and he's just wondering what could have been.
God.
Yeah.
Instead of working on Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yes,
Oh my
for 10 years. But
Yeah.
Do you guys think we'll see it at the Game Awards? There's going to be one big reveal. It's either going to be Remake Part 3, it's going to be Kingdom Hearts 4, or something else that's crazy.
Nope.
Bloodborne Remake, perhaps?
I'm still waiting for. I don't think we need a Bloodborne
Half-Life
remake at this
3.
point.
my thought with the Game Awards is the only Japanese developer-led thing that we're going to get of anything is something Kojima, maybe something Bandai Namco, and then an ad for Nintendo Switch 2. That's probably it. The Game Awards tends to be more Western heavy anyway, so
Dude,
and that's okay.
The whole RPG category has nothing. They put Avowed in instead of Trails from the Sky.
Yeah.
This
I
chapter. Speaking of that, Dallah, I have a question for you because earlier you said that Expedition 33 ranks number 2 for you on the year. So is Expedition 33 not your game of the year?
If I were to say, not including remakes, because like I don't know, like remakes could be So like if I were to not include remakes, I would say that it's like the best new game of the year. But like personally, my favorite game I played this year was Light Trails in the Sky because it's just nostalgic for me.
I
just love that game. It's wonderful. It's like a beat for beat remake.
Part of me is a little bit conflicted because I like to play like the original versions before I touch remakes typically, but they are a little bit expensive, and everyone's saying, well, it's just better. It's just it just go into it and just play the game. So I do have that game. I probably won't get to it until 2026. I've got too much going on until the end of the year, but I definitely want to play it.
Don't worry about the original. I mean, you can play the original on Steam for. I think it goes on sale for like $10.
They look so good.
Even though the original is good, but that remaster, that
remake is like it's beat for beat. Like it's the exact game. Like they just took the game and they just made it incredible. Like just
1-to-1. Yeah.
Upgraded it. Like it's the same nostalgic feeling. It's like everything feels the same.
And I'm on the same boat as Branden, where I think Branden said this, but that is what Final Fantasy Remake should have been. Is what Trails in the Sky First Chapter is.
Yeah.
So, but alrighty, gents, we will go ahead and wrap things up. I of course want to thank you, our audience, for joining us. I'll always appreciate it, but especially I want to make sure to thank these gentlemen here. We have Fake, aka FakePearBear, on Twitter X. We also have Dallah of Dallah Games and JRPG Pursuit Podcast, also featuring Branden from Just the Gems and Emily from Orbalology, and of course GCG, aka GameCube Galaxy of the same name on YouTube. Have I missed anything? Have I missed any other Substacks, subreddit, something, anything?
Not on my end.
Sounds good.
Anything you guys want to let us know of before we call it? Any fun projects? Any last calls?
Just keep supporting good games and supporting physical media and like what you like.
Yeah.
I think that says it all.
Alrighty. Thank you guys again, and we hope that you all have a fantastic day.